All right. Well, then we've got Oglesby playing tomorrow, Wednesday, as we film the podcast on Tuesday. So the Tigers are 13-0. They have scored at least 60 points in each of their past 6 games. And yet, and we've mentioned this on the podcast, if you go by sixmanfootball.com, they're actually a 41-point underdog to number 1 ranked Benjamin in the state championship game, 1A Division II. So I've got an existential question for you, and you can sort of apply it to Oglesby. When you're doing something for the very first time, as Oglesby is in reaching state, how do you avoid that? We're just happy to be here feeling.
Go ahead, DJ.
Well, they gotta be motivated to win, especially if nobody thinks that they're gonna win. And yeah, be happy that you're there. It's your first time as a program there. But remember that you're still there to play a game, and if like we mentioned, I think last week or the week before when we were talking about Oglesby and how and we don't talk a lot of 6-man football. When we do, we usually talk about like Abbott or Jonesboro, those teams. But like that one week I picked Oglesby over May and y'all didn't, and everybody was like, we won that game, and or it's just like you have to be there to get the job done that you want to get done. And I mean, we were kind of griping this weekend about how Coach Dixon wasn't letting us talk to players for stories and stuff, but maybe in a way that's a good thing, especially like if they've never done it before. You don't want to get them distracted, and like you're there to play a game, not really. Sure, enjoy the attention, but remember that you have to play a football game and you're there to win and to prove people wrong.
Yeah, and I will say this about just to clarify a little bit on the players. I think that was their call, that they didn't want to talk. I don't think that was necessarily Jeb saying we don't want you to talk to them. I think they've kind of gone radio silent. The players have, well, and I kind of a part of me is like, sort of like, I get it, they're like trying to like focus in on the task.
Yeah. A lot of those 1A school kids also, I think they get nervous, like they're not really up to talking in public, not just like
every team has one kid that can jabber a little bit, So anyway, Chad, what do you think?
Well, you asked that question in such an eloquent way, as an existential quandary or something to look at, and that of course is right up my alley, and it made me think, immediately of a book called The Alchemist, right?
Okay.
And The Alchemist is like this fable, this boy who's a shepherd and decides to pursue his dream and go look for his personal treasure. And one thing that they keep telling him, all these wise men that he encounters, they tell him about the principle of favorability, right? It's beginner's luck. When you're in search of your personal legend, something will happen along the way to help you right at the start, right? So you're talking about their first time, right? So will they have the principle of favorability, right, at the state championship game because it's their first time?
We're going deep. We're going deep,
right? Well, the thing about The Alchemist is he has to go through all these struggles, and all these things happen to him along the way. And to me, it speaks to, like in sports, of a team that gets to the championship game and then loses, and then gets there again and loses. Then finally, after several years of trying, wins the championship. On the other hand, kind of heck with all that, ups and downs and legend stuff. We get there, let's win it,
Right.
And honestly, like, 6-man football, it's not like, the NFL where it gets analyzed to death and everybody knows like every little facet of what's going to happen. Okay, so they're a 40-point underdog. That doesn't mean anything, just throw that out the window.
Right. No, I think those are all good points. And, I joked earlier about Martin, if they win that game, that they'll say nobody believed in us or whatever. So I used to really read Bill Simmons a lot, when he still wrote about sports instead of podcasting all the time.
We say
and
on the podcast.
yeah, as we say on the podcast. We still do write about sport, though. You got to admit that. And one of the things he would talk about was that, like, that is the number one thing that, like, every team says is the nobody believed in us said. And I think if you can tap into that, it can be a motivating factor. It can be something that you rally around and, like, look, man, this is just us. We got to make a play, da 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 da.
Well, as a crusty old sports writer, the thing that you hear more than any other, like, is that, nobody believed us and we overcame all odds. That's one thing. One thing that I kind of am really cynical about, which is like, because, like, people are like, oh, well, we just work so hard. We're the hardest working team out here, and we work. And like, okay, well, everybody says that. So is everybody outworking everybody? And it's a lot easier to say when you're 8-0 that you worked really hard to get here. It's all what you did. Okay, congratulations. But at the same time, yeah, you got to work hard. Yeah, you got to put in the reps and everything to be good. And so it's like kind of this thing that I can't really, like, I just struggle with it, like trying to figure out if I believe it or not, or if it's all BS, right?
Well,
and then the third thing is, and this is the funniest one to me, or the one you hear all the time. Oh, well, we just get along so well as a team this year. Last year's guys were so divisive, and this year we get along so much better.
Have heard that a few times. Yeah, you do sound pretty cynical and grizzled right now, but
well, I got the playoff beard going. I might as well have the grizzledness to go along with it.
The sort of tweak on nobody believed in us is, well, they said we couldn't do it, or they said this about us, and I always think, who are they? Who are all these people that are saying all these things? Do you have a list? Can I see the attribution? I mean, who are they? So yeah.
But haven't you figured out, Bryce, that we live in a world where nothing means anything anymore? So
oh my gosh, this is the most philosophical of all our podcasts. Let's